Welcome to Blue Chip Academy, the Blueprint to Success interview series, providing unique blueprints, tactical knowledge, and best practices to navigate critical points in the football ecosystem so athletes and parents can prepare a plan to a career path that any athlete can bank on. Today's episode, we got Texas A&M run game coordinator and assistant head coach, Elijah Robinson. And you guys don't know, Elijah is a friend of mine, former teammate at Penn State, someone that has kind of mastered the critical points and the mandatory pivots in the game of football, delivers, right? And he turned football into a career that you can bank on, being one of the elite defensive coaches in the country. When it comes to recruiting, I mean, what's understood doesn't need to be said. He's elite. When you talk about elite recruiters, elite defensive coaches, you're talking about my man, Elijah Robinson. We just want to welcome him to the Blueprint to Success. What's up, E?
What's going on, bro? How you doing?
How's everything, man?
So I'm fresh off the plane, man.
Fresh off the plane, man. That recruiting thing, that's what we got to do. That's what it is. Got a talent acquisition, key to the game.
Trying to steal a night at the house with the kids before I head back on the road in the morning, man. So I'm blessed.
Man.
Everything's good, though.
Awesome. The grind doesn't stop. So, man, you had a unique experience, a unique highlight on the ecosystem, man, from a player to off the field role and player development and then transition into coaching. What's one piece of advice that you would give to somebody that's getting into football for sustained success throughout the football ecosystem?
I think the biggest thing is understanding there's no job that's too small or no job that's too big for you. You got to show your value, and the more you're valued, the more opportunities you'll get. So you can't get in this thing, man, and not stay humble. You gotta stay humble, and you gotta stay ahead. You gotta have some initiative. Like I said, man, you just gotta grind every day. Show your value.
Absolutely, showing your value. That's always a big piece of everything, man. Coming in, being low maintenance, and showing your value in the places where it needs to be shown, right? Like bringing value in the proper places. So taking it back a little bit to your playing days, we go through the recruiting process here at Blue Chip Academy. We try to give, tactical insights, try to give those perspectives from, our experience. So let's look at, your time as an all-state player at Woodrow Wilson. How was your recruiting process?
I started off at the rival high school. I kind of transitioned to Woodrow Wilson when it came to just safety issues for where I was in the city of Camden. It was a little better situation for me where at Woodrow Wilson. I had some high school coaches that transitioned over there, and I ended up moving with my aunt to a better neighborhood where I could go somewhere and focus on my academics, focus on my football. So I didn't know much about the recruiting process. I went to a camp going into my freshman year. After that, they go to any more camps. Wasn't a lot of guys that went D1 or got recruited prior to my class. So I really didn't know much about it, man, until the end of my junior year. And then I started to realize, man, this thing is real. People really, really interested in you and asked you to come on campus, and it was all new to me.
Gotcha. So when you went to your first camp, when did you actually say, okay, this process is getting serious? Was that when your junior year?
I think my junior year, during my junior season is when I realized it's coaches coming to practice.
Okay.
It's coaches up at the games, and I was like, okay, I guess this is real, but prior to that, I had no idea.
Okay, no idea. That's wild. And you just go through the different time periods. We interview different people, and it's just different answers from going through the recruiting process. Some people was just like, man, just start. Some parents are Googling, some players didn't know anything. Did you play any? Were you a multi-sport athlete?
Yeah, so I played basketball and football.
Okay.
I practiced basketball. I come from Camden High School, man. They had some of the top talent in basketball. So as my freshman year, when I realized, this ain't gonna be what I do. Like I said, we had workouts during the all season. So after my freshman year, I kind of stuck to football.
Okay, after freshman year, stuck to football. But guys, defensive lineman out there, you guys hear that, man? He played basketball. He was hooping. We touched on, how informed you were. You didn't really know much on going through the recruiting process. But what did you base your decision on when you finally picked your school? Like, what were kind of the metrics that you were going based off of?
Yeah, man. Like I said, being so raw or not understand this recruiting process before this thing got serious. I looked at the uniforms. I looked at okay, I thought I was gonna be a running back. So okay, who had big backs? Okay, this school like big backs. I'm going to this school. Like this school like big middle linebackers. I'm going here. Then I started to realize like, yeah, that's not what it's about. And as I took visits and I went to see schools, obviously you fell in love with the school where you had the most fun at. And then one day, I'll be honest, one day it all changed for me when it came to meeting Coach Johnson. And I realized, like, you know what? It ain't about the records. It's not about the uniform. I truly feel in my gut this man's going to help me become a better man one day. And then I realized it's about relationships. So I decided to go to Penn State based off the relationships I had with Coach Norwood and Coach Johnson, two men that was in my life that I thought could do nothing but better my life, either by mimicking them, watching how they are around their families, or it's something about those two guys that say, I need to put myself around those guys.
That's major. I would definitely agree with those like powerful men. We talk about Coach Johnson, Coach Norwood, and that aspect of just relationship. And we were talking about basing it on that next opportunity to fully develop yourself, right? Being that better person, like being a better if that's what you're kind of saying.
No doubt.
And that's what you were looking for in the recruiting process, in that relationship that you found. That's strong, because when we talk about our decision of going to a school, it's a 30, 40 decision, right? Like you want to have an investment. It's not a 3 or 4 year thing or just a stop. It's like these are relationships that you have going into your career. We'll touch on those different things later in the interview. Were you thinking about post football career? I know you talked about developing yourself as a person, but were you thinking about being a coach?
Nah, I never thought about being a coach. I came in this thing, all my eggs in one basket. I was going to the league and taking care of my family.
Okay.
That's all I thought about. When I decided to study crime, law, justice, I said, okay, well, this is something I know. Coming from Camden, I'm like, well, I'll be able to put this together once I just learn the real terminology. I can relate it back to my upbringing and where I'm from. So it was interesting to me. And I said, you know what, maybe I'll go to law school and be a lawyer. That was my thought process, man. Go to law school, be a lawyer. But that all changed, man. Like you said, through the injury and the opportunities to continue my education as a grad assistant.
Yeah.
And I'm here now.
Oh man, that's awesome. We're going to go into that a little bit into the next parts. But what was the best part of the recruiting process for you?
Man, the relationships, meeting people, having the opportunity to see my mom get on the plane for the first time.
Okay.
And seeing how proud she was, just see people have interest in me and how highly they spoke of me. And I think it was actually seeing her be proud. And also my sister, because my mom at the time, she had open heart surgery. She couldn't finish the visits with me. So my older sister took some of these visits with me. But just have the opportunity, man, to let them stay in a nice hotel and let them be catered to with steaks and lobsters and let them just see how proud they are that their little brother or their son was being sought after, man. So I enjoyed that part of it, to share that experience with them. And then the other part is, man, just spending time with the players, just from different walks of life, different states, and just gelling with those guys.
Man, that's so true, man. You meet a lot of people going through the recruiting process when you go on visits, places, learning about the different cultures at the schools that you go to visit. And I mean, it gets kind of confusing when you're going through it. Some people get stressed out and all that different stuff. What was the worst part for you?
Man, the worst part was telling the other coaches no.
Yeah.
Because I'm just a person that never want to let anybody down, and built relationships, and these people investing time and money coming to see you and giving their best shot at it, man. And for me, it was just like that. I got to call and tell these people no. And that was the hardest part for me, because I built some good relationships with some people, and unfortunately, I can only go to one school, but that was the hardest part for me.
Right. It's like saying, like, I mean, the recruiting process makes guys grow up fast, right? Like if you're in tune the right way, you get your critical thinking skills, and you got to put your big boy pants on when you say, "Look, coach, I'm not coming." I remember, I'm not going to say the name because he's still coaching, but when I told somebody I wasn't coming, I was like, "All right, I'll see." Click.
Makes you become a man, man.
Put in that 2-3 years of recruiting and be like, hey man, that's it.
Yeah, makes you become a man fast.
No, that's so true, man. What was the key takeaway that you would share with someone to better equip themselves, like a 13-year-old kid getting ready to go into the recruiting process as a prospect?
Yeah, I would just say, man, keep the main thing, man. Like, write down what's important to you. Don't waste people's time. If you know, go with it. If you don't know, use all your visits. But I think it's a different day and age from when we were being recruited to now.
Right.
If you have the opportunity to commit to a school, you better do it because half of those scholarships being used for the portal, half is being used for high school kids, uh, and then some guys are being left out. So if you know, go with it. If you don't know, hopefully you're blessed enough that guys are going to wait around for you.
That's a key piece right there, man. Just understanding the new landscape, the current state of college football. Like he's saying, like the transfer portal and different aspects and going into the high level of recruiting and some guys getting left out. Just understanding that. And that kind of segues into our next topic is recruiting as an SEC coach. Recently 247 released that Texas A&M was on pace to finish with the highest rated class in the history of the composite ratings. And it was, that's pretty crazy when you think about it, like in the history of keeping track of it, these guys have been racking up talent. And if anybody knows how the recruiting game goes, I mean, I see kind of what, this guy goes when you start seeing on the rosters when there's guys from Philadelphia and College Station, you guys see like, man, what's going on here? How's this happening? What's the main trait that catches your attention when you're recruiting players?
Man, you want to see the foundation they come from, their home situation. What's the motivating factors of this kid? Is he a guy just loves recruiting, or is there something that's going to motivate him to try to be great every day? So that's the core piece of it. Obviously, you got to look for the size, the athleticism, and the potential of what he can be. But I think outside of all that stuff, man, you got to see these kids, they have grit, how they're going to handle failure, how they're going to handle success, and the people that surround. I think that's a big part of it as well. What is the support group like? They can be positive influence or bad influence.
Right.
So there's a lot of things that go into it, and they're all different. You're not going to coach them all the same. You're not going to recruit them all the same. But you just got to figure out, okay, what's the deciding factors for this kid? Who's helping to make these decisions,
right.
And go from there.
That's really important that you talked about that. You talk about the main trait. You went straight to internal. Like, I mean, get different people that, say different things, but understanding the pure makeup of a player, I mean, you kind of can see what you can do with that, the malleability of it, whether how to take coaching, what am I dealing with for 3 to 4 years? Like, I'm trying to talk to these guys. There's certain critical factors, and sometimes they put a lot of value in that. But when we talk about the physical aspects, Coach Robinson's a defensive line coach. When you talk about size and speed standards, you talk to me a little bit about that when you're looking for guys, like how important are the actual size and speed standards that guys actually need to possess?
Yeah, I think when you recruit guys, I think you got to recruit to the conference you're playing in. You got to recruit to the scheme you're playing, and what's fit, like where these guys fit at in your scheme. So, there's some conferences where you can have more of a developmental guy, and there's conferences where that developmental guy may never get a chance to develop because his body get broken up depending on the conference that he's playing in. So I think as you go through this process, obviously for me on this level, the SEC, I think the best conference of ball right now, the closest thing to the next level. Size is a big thing for us. Got to have the length, you got to have the grit, got to have the bone structure to play defensive line in the SEC. Height is a great thing as well, but all you guys not going to be the 6'5" guys. So you can be shorter as long as you have length. And I say length, I'm talking about long arms, and things like that. I have no issue with having a 6'1" D tackle if he has the length within his arms. And you love to have length on the edges because sometimes those guys make plays by just being their size. You know,
Right, right, right.
they
Just
may
being
knock
there.
balls down. You know, they may get in the throwing lane. So I think it's all about outside their size and athleticism and twitch and those little things you look for. You got to make sure their makeup, their mental makeup, is what you're looking
Strong.
for as well in that defense or
Mhm.
offense, whatever it is you're coaching.
Absolutely. You touched on the as like a concept that I think a lot of players miss when they're like looking for that best school. You said it, like find that school that you fit and like kind of commit, right? Because even from when you're recruiting, you said you recruited different depending on the school. You might not have the developmental time to get better here, right? Because people always like to throw out, oh, this player went here, he was a 2-star, and look at him in the NFL, or this guy. And I'm
Yeah.
like, well, it don't really work like that. Like it's coming out of college, there's a time clock on certain things. Can you talk to me a little bit about recruiting in the Big 12 versus recruiting at the SEC versus at Temple?
Like you said, I mentioned I spent more time at Temple than I did just in the Big 12 alone. Only spent 1 year there, but
Okay.
uh, at Temple, we look for size and speed.
Mm.
Everything else, we had no issue taking the 250-pound D tackle. We said one day he'll be 300 pounds. We had no issue taking the 200-pound defensive end. He said one day he'll be 230, 240, 250. If they had speed, twitch, or they had the body structure to put on weight, you know, we said, you know what, we're going to develop these guys. We'll put them in the oven when they get here, and they're going to end up being NFL draft picks. Now you look at, I use that for example. I look at Michael Dalby, he's playing for the Arizona Cardinals. I look at Hassan Reddick, who was a Pro Bowler, first round draft pick out of Temple. Matt Ioannidis, man, I can go on for days. Like Quincy Roche, like those guys that, hey, they might play linebacker, but let's move to DN. They might play DN, let's book them up, move them to D tackle. It was just all those projections based off body structure, size, and athletic ability. I think at the highest level, when we get to SEC, you're recruiting a different type of athlete. You're recruiting a different type of player. Do you still have developmental players? Without a doubt, but you can't have a roster full of them.
Right.
So you're getting those guys, that 300-pound D tackle that's already sized and ready made, that has tremendous athletic ability, has tremendous power, explosion, things like that. You start to develop the player and develop his skill set, but you're not developing as far as the body structure, if that makes sense.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely.
so I think that's the biggest thing. Like some places you can get those smaller guys and wait till they get big enough and develop them, because they're going to have developmental guys around that they're going against. If you're a developmental guy that's trying to develop and you're going against guys that's already uh, 330 pounds, I'm a 250-pound D tackle. The guards I'm seeing every day in practice are 330. My body might be beat up by the time I do develop, if that makes sense.
That does make sense. Yeah, absolutely. Man, coaches, players, recruiting coordinators, he's giving you a blueprint on how to build a program if you're at a Temple type of level or at the SEC, man, and just like that's some quality stuff. Because like even when you talk about at Temple finding guys, how important is a kid's camp performance for where you're at now? Like I know you got to see like the guys that you're recruiting in SEC typically look a certain type of way on film. Is the camp eval just as important versus how it was at Temple
I think the camp eval is the most important. You get
across
a
the
chance,
board?
you get the chance to trust your eyes. I think when kids, when they come to camp, those guys are coming to camp. You're working with them directly on some of those things you can't see on film. The way he handles coaching, how many times you got to explain things, right? That changes things. So you see guys that may not have a lot of offers coming prior to camp, and he might leave with an offer, and then you see a guy coming to camp with a bunch of offers, um, and maybe they don't take coaching well. Maybe you had to explain things over and over again. So it's like I said, it's hit or miss. But I tell the guy to help yourself, come to camp, and even those guys that's highly recruited, when they come to camp, you get to see who guys that love to compete.
That's it, man. Who got the
Who
dog?
compete? Like you come to camp, and say, "Nah, I ain't doing that." Like, okay, do you really love to compete?
Do you
So
really love to
I think
compete?
you get to see a lot of different things, man, with it. But I think camp is really important.
That's that's a that's something to drill in, guys. Man, you just get ready to go to camp, man. It's an opportunity. We talk about different things. I get a question sometimes about what's the most important camp circuit to go on. Is it the elite circuit or get in front of coaches? And I always say, man, get in front of coaches at the
Yeah.
end of the day because that's who you're gonna be. So you're gonna be working with.
And
That's who
I
you're
say as you
going.
go to camp, I think you got to be realistic. Okay, where am I at as a player? What camp should I go to? Like pick a few camps. You want to pick an SEC, you want to pick a Big Ten, you want to pick a Group of Five. Like, give yourself some different levels of camps you want to go to help yourself out.
Absolutely. What's the most costly mistake that you see prospects making going through the process?
Following their friends. One thing like I call and say, hey, I'll come here if my cousin can come. I'll come here with my brother. Like, neither one's gonna have success. And one guy's gonna have success, the other guys are gonna have success. Especially if they're close like that. So you got to go what fits you. And also the thing that I see guys make mistakes on is like I said, it's not just not doing their homework. Just going somewhere and making decisions based off of just not the main things. Based off of I'm trying to think, trying to just think of examples. Like based off of like just the recruiting talk, man,
I do.
and never doing it. They're never doing their homework. Never does the scheme fit. All those different things. Like, stop asking about how many guys you're going to sign. You're going to have to compete wherever you go. Now, you're asking about schemes. That's a little bit different.
Yeah.
And things like that. Making decisions based on, okay, what do I want to study? All those different things. But like I said, man, just keep the main thing the main thing.
Keep the main thing, and being uninformed. So don't focus on the wrong stuff, worrying about what writer wrote about you, man. Get to it, keep sharpening, and get that thing right. I mean, you talk about it throughout the process, throughout this interview, about how you evaluate the internal aspect of a player. So when we talk about how the kid's family goes into the evaluation process, you talk about that as like the main piece of your evaluation for real. Like, where's that stock coming from? Because the question was, how much does a kid's family go into the evaluation process?
Yeah, I think it's a big part of it. I think you can't judge a kid. You have to be careful judging a kid based off his surroundings, but you also have to be aware of it because it is going to play a factor in his life, whether good or bad. I think open lines of communication is always going to be something that happens through the whole college career, and that's being on the same page. I think that's the only way a kid has a chance to have success. The family or the mentor or whatever, and the coach has to be on the same page. And the family and the mentors have to support the coach. I think is the most important thing. And like I said, but at the end of the day, you have to go and dig into that player and see his makeup and what does he want to achieve. And is he strong enough to, this is what I want to be. This is how I'm going to become it. And then invest in that kid because it's investing our time and our love and our trust into a kid to help him try to get to where he wants to be. And I think you have to be careful judging him completely off of the surroundings, but also just be aware of it.
Absolutely. That's a very important part because it's like you have to have critical thinking skills when you're evaluating the different situations. And for families, understanding that you can be an asset to the prospect. Don't be a liability. Help build up, help guide him, put the furniture in the right way for a saying to make the focus a little easier. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
as we continue to transition in talking about recruiting players at a young age, the SEC is typically, you see this guys are one of the universities or schools that recruit guys early, right? You give out offers in 9th, 10th grade. Can you take me through a little bit of what you need to see from a 9th grader to get an offer versus an 11th or 12th grader?
I think it's like I said, it all goes back to the skill set.
Skill set.
His skill set, and understanding the development of a young freshman compared to a junior, where that junior may be somewhat a little better, but is that freshman right on par with those older guys? So I think there's a few things we watch from us for a young guy, what he can be or whereas he's working towards versus an older guy. And like I said, it all depends too. Like, where are you at with your roster? What do you need? And how selective are you being at each position?
That's very, yep. Yep. We'll take a quick break. We do a little read right here, a little LIG read. We'll be back in a couple minutes. Just one. This episode of Blue Chip Academy Blueprint to Success is brought to you by LIG Sports Group. It's a football operations strategy and consulting group helping you master the critical points in the football ecosystem, starting from the recruiting process up to the transition out into the ascension points, whether you're a coach looking for the next job, or administration looking for their next coach, or just looking to transition into your next career field as a player. So LIG Sports Group sponsored this episode, and we will get back into the critical insights and specific knowledge through the transition that Coach Robinson went through. Back at it, man. So now we're getting back into the critical insights throughout the transition. We always talk about how that thing happens. You touched on getting injured earlier. How was the transition from the game for you?
Oh man, I think it was probably one of the tougher transitions I ever had to have. You like I said, you go through put all your eggs in one basket. All our dreams and hopes is to play the next level. Since we were kids, and then that opportunity goes away at a blink of an eye. So it's tough, man. So you talk about that support system, and I go back to saying when I made a decision about coming to Penn State, it was about two gentlemen that made me feel like I needed them in my life, and I think they was big parts of helping me get through that transition. So the biggest thing for me, man, was just at some point just getting the support that life goes on, and that that wasn't the end for me. And when I had that support from roommates, teammates, and coaches on staff, that helped me. That helped me through the transition, but it was hard at first.
Absolutely. You didn't exactly touch on it, but I was on the field when it happened. But Elijah, his career, the transition happened based on an injury. You want to talk about the injury or at all?
Yeah, that's fine. Man, I still remember spring ball practice.
I was on the field.
Can't remember the exact play, but I just remember feeling all. I remember falling down. Like it took forever for me to hit the ground. And I remember lifting my head up and then feeling everything completely go numb. And not having any feeling whatsoever from the neck down. I still remember to this day Chris Baker yelling, "He get up!" And but it's like he was far away and standing right over me. So then I just remember hearing the ambulance come and everything getting cut off, me put on a stretcher and being taken to the hospital, man, and having a spinal stenosis was what they said was the issue. And I just remember that day that Coach Paterno told me, it's best that you don't play anymore. That's the safest thing for you. At that moment, at 18 years old, that's not what I wanted to hear. So I remember storming out and going to my room and crying, man. Just locked myself in my room and cried until I had my roommates to kind of come and try to help me get through this thing.
And it's crazy because I think that was like a real moment, like for me, it was like that was like my intro to college football. Cause I want to say that was my spring that I got there. You know what I mean? It was like the next spring. So it was like my first one.
Yeah, it was your second spring.
Second spring, but it was like all our freshman guys, like that real reality check of like, oh, this is real stuff happens out here and practice keeps going. Cause I know cats was shucking up a little bit. Cause it was like move up 15 when it happened. It's like, that's the real life aspect of college football. And when I know got to keep going, and we'll talk about it even more. Just always admire how you leaned into the transition. I know it was taken from you, right? Like just talking about the next steps. Like, so you get hurt. What are the first transition jobs when you get done?
Oh man. So I got hurt. I remember talking to Coach Paterno and those guys about coming back being a student assistant. So I helped out at practice, helped out with the scout team. I remember I helped out with tackles and tight ends first, with Bill Kenny. And I was at a student assistant, and then we were graduating, and was asked to come back as a GA. And at the time was no football positions open, so I actually started off my career as GA with the academics. I did a semester with Todd Coker and those guys in academics. I did whatever I had to do to just try to stick around till it was room for me to move up to the football
Right.
world. So I GA'd with the academics first, and then had an opportunity to move up to football and GA'd there, and that's kind of where it all started, man. But I just, like I said, was patient. I think I got the opportunities to be a GA based upon the things that I've done as an undergrad, hosting players and just always being available for player panel, always being available to like show people around. Like I said, it was no job too big or no job too small. And I think
Right,
that
right.
helped me get the job that I got as a GA.
I'll definitely say that you used to kill it on the player panel. I'll admit now that like he was like the star on my official visit at Penn State. They have the player panel, have the players come out, tell their stories, and I've gone to different places and people were telling their stories. And the one thing that was different about Ease was it was just a real story. He wasn't giving a cookie cutter like, oh, it's been great. It was like, oh, I was homesick, I was this. And my mom was like, he's real. He's real. And I was like, yeah, I mean, that's what's up. And then I remember after the game on my OV, it's like, oh, he had some wings over. I was like, yeah, it's cool up here, man. So yeah, he did a great job recruiting even as a player before that. So he had a lot of credit, a lot to do with me coming up there. So when you were making that transition and trying those different things, man, that's different, right? You get the game taken away from you at 18, 19 years old. You're from Camden, you're at Penn State now, and you're trying to figure out those next steps. You became a GA, started working in football, and then you say you became in the academics role. And then it's like player development, and then back in like all these different roles within sports.
Yeah.
Which attributes or traits did you lean on from your playing days to make those transitions in those different roles?
Man, I just leaned on just the grind. Like I said, just every day try to outwork people, no matter what.
Yeah.
It still was about competing for me, wanting to be the best, and whatever I've done. Like if they wanted me to stock paper, I wanted to be the best at doing that. I just, like I said, I wanted to be the best at my job that they gave me, and I figured that would be my way to continue to climb. And I was, like I said, I was grateful because that's the position everyone wanted to get into, that position. Just to be able to build a staff at Penn State, and whatever they gave me, I tried to kill it to get to the next job. And then when I got that job, try to kill it again. I still remember when Coach O'Brien came in, and he didn't have an on the field role for me right away. So I remember being a player development guy that also, I ran around like as a referee during practice. I still I
Yeah.
still got a make believe flag that I made out of a yellow scout team jersey. I still got it hanging up in my office just
Right.
to make me remember, like, this is where you came from. This is how you grind to get where you are. Um, so it's just like I said, man. Just as players and athletes, like, it should always be about competing. And I think that's the true trait that helps us when we go into the working force.
Absolutely. And putting those blocks in place to be able to operate in that space of competitive nature, right? Where you're like, all right, I can do this. I'm here. My career's closed, and
Yeah,
I can put the gas on the next thing. So it's like you make that step, you're off the field, and you make the transition on the field. So we're going to talk about, the journey from those off the field roles to becoming on the field coach. Can we talk?
yeah.
Take me a little bit through that, because that's a process that a lot of guys get lost from. Kind of step out of the industry. I mean, it can get tricky. You know what I mean? Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, so when I had to take those off the field roles, I never stopped watching film. I never stopped breaking teams down. Um, I continue to watch film. I continue to study O line. I continue to study offenses. I just did things and took notes on my own to kind of keep me engaged in that part of it. I still did clinics. I still sat in position meetings. Just to hear what was going on. So I just kept myself around as much as possible. If I had to get into the office early to make sure my work was done, to be able to sit in a staff meeting on defense, or sit in a position meeting later on that day. That's just what I did, man. I didn't allow myself to not continue to focus on the main thing, which for
Right.
me is being a position coach. So it may take for me to stay later or come in earlier to get my work done, to be able to stay involved with the other things on the field role.
That's so key because I mean it makes the transition once you're on the road, and then it obviously shows when you produce, whether it's in recruiting, producing with players, developing, going to NFL from different programs, Texas A&M, Baylor, Temple. You know what I mean? The impact of the mentoring and everything at Penn State and helping coach there.
Yeah,
So now, you're at Texas A&M, juggernaut, you're top school, top recruiting class, all those different type of accolades that come with a place like that. What's the ideal personality type or player that would lend well following your post career path to an assistant head coach at Texas A&M?
man, I'm gonna always look for the guy that knew how to take notes,
Mm,
the guy that was on time, um, the guy that did things the right way, and also was they good leaders.
right.
Were they good leaders at practice? Were they good leaders when things went right, when things went wrong? Were they grinders? Because like I said, this profession, you got to grind.
Mhm.
If you don't grind, this profession won't be in long. So I'm gonna look for a lot of things. Like again, did they host recruits?
Yeah.
Did they do player panel? How do they treat people in the building? Because at the end of the day, you have to be. If you don't be able to recruit at the college level, I don't matter what you know if you don't got the players. So I'm gonna see how they interacted with people. Do they respect people? Did people like them? How did they carry themselves? Did they take notes in position meetings? Were they on time? Like all the little things, right, matter. So how do they handle all the little things when they were a player? That would be what I'll base off like hiring a guy and getting into this profession. That doesn't matter. They could have probably played 0 snaps ever, but all the other intangibles are important.
That's key, fellas. Like you guys coming up that want to be coaches and things of that nature, and having awareness of where the end of your career may be. Man, I seen like a clip today of Sean McVay running around doing high school clips or whatever the case may be, and you got Coach Robinson telling us now, like be on point, be a professional while you're in there. Like if you want to be a coach, you can go into your studies, be like doing things the right way, showing that you have interest in the recruiting process, being where your feet are at the universities and things like that, so that the coaches and you can build that pure relationship when you do make that transition out, that you have an advocate for you, right? Because like at the end of the day, coaches is about relationships. And so he mentioned earlier about young coaches specifically in off the field roles looking to get on the field, do your work to make sure you can do the football work. And that's kind of the key of moving from off the field roles to on the field. So like you've been killing it this whole time. I mean, in your career, you got off the field experience, on the field experience. And what's the career end goal, man?
Oh man, for me, what's been working for me so far has been each opportunity I get, try to be the best at that. You know,
Right.
and every time I've grinded at being the best of where I was at, promotions happen, raises happen, opportunities happen for me. Um, so I just try to grind out, man, where I'm at. At the end of the day, my aspirations is to be a head coach and have an opportunity to run my own program and develop a staff and develop some young coaches and be able to bring older coaches that was influences in my life, bring them back with my staff, and I do want to run my own program one day and be a head coach in this whole thing. And like I said, I'm gonna go back to the last question you asked about these young coaches. I think it's two type of abilities that can help these guys, and I think the two things is this: it's dependability and availability.
Mm,
All right, those are the most important abilities that I'm going to be looking for as I build my staff. Those are the most important abilities I'm going to look for as I write a letter of recommendation. Those are the two important abilities I'm going to look for as I recruit a kid. Like, is he dependable and is he available? And I think those are the most important things, man. I'm sorry to go back on that, but
no, that's good.
I missed that. But yeah, my end goal is, man, to be a head coach and run my own program.
No, that's perfect, man. And like you said, being available and dependable, man, that is key. Because like again, we talk about it. I would talk about it to other guys, man. You have to have trust. Guys have to trust you. It gets hot in these kitchens when you're talking about coaching. When you're talking about playing in the SEC level. When you're talking about a coach, putting their salary on the line to bring you onto their program and kind of and develop you to reach your goals. So man, that was a lot of value packed information, man, for young coaches, man, recruiting coordinators. We got one of the top recruiting guys in the country on the show here, and top defensive coaches. And like you said, end goal of being a head coach as he's trending. That's kind of the way it's going. So man, thank you, E, for coming on, Coach Robinson. Man, really appreciate it. Everything you guys like, subscribe to the Blue Chip Academy YouTube podcast. Download the Blue Chip Blueprint recruiting checklist to make sure that you're informed. Like Coach Robinson said, one of the main things players go through is just kind of going through the process with their head in the clouds and making uninformed decisions. And that's not what we want to do. We want to treat this thing like a business and make sure you set yourself up for the next 30, 40 years, man. And use football as a catalyst to a career that you can bank on. Thanks again. Life is good. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you, boss.
Yep.